thing, as strong as those 4 points are that I mentioned, and I'm going to have a few other folks here speak because they have some important information to share, but as important and as powerful as those 4 points are that I just made, there's something even stronger in terms of the evidence against Ralston. Even if DA Seth Williams is right that there was information given by Ralston pursuant to an immunity deal, that was what we lawyers call a post-immunity statement. A post-immunity statement means you get immunity and then you start talking. But remember, Ralston lied to the police first before he got immunity. So you can use the pre-immunity statement as evidence against him. Now, I'm standing here as if I'm some professional prosecutor. I'm one of the bad guys, a defense attorney, and I can figure out how to prosecute. And Seth Williams needs to figure out how to prosecute. As a radio show host on WRD, I was one of the few black people, thank you very much, WRD. I was one of the few black people who came out and endorsed Seth. And I got to tell you, I took some flack for that. I lost some street credibility for supporting Seth. And now, as they say, you learn from your mistakes. In supporting Seth, I'm looking at Seth and the other guy who could have won, McCaffrey. And I'm saying that, wow, if Seth is bad, McCaffrey is worse. But I don't know if McCaffrey is worse. I don't know if McCaffrey would have done anything different than Seth is doing. And I'm embarrassed to say that the guy that I supported, the guy that I endorsed, the guy that I told black people to vote for is not the guy doing what he should do in the name of justice. So what I'm asking people to do now is to call the DA's office. You can remember this number, put it on your cell phone, 215-686-8000. 215-686-8000. 215-686-8000. And ask him a couple questions. One, if Hakeem from the projects had shot himself and blamed the white police officer, would Seth Williams be taking the same approach that he's taking today? That's the first one. And the second one is, don't you guys in the DA's office prosecute people using circumstantial evidence? Don't you have people in jail serving life sentences based on circumstantial evidence? And Seth, what about this circumstantial evidence? What about the fact that you got a gunshot wound? That's one thing that the police look at. When somebody gets a gunshot wound, something happened. And it might be criminal. That's why every time a doctor, it's a law in every state that when you go to a hospital and get treated for a gunshot wound, the doctors must immediately call the police. It could have been an accidental shooting in the basement by yourself, but they're required by law to call the police because there's a gunshot wound. We got that here. The second thing we got here is gunpowder residue on your shirt. Now, if you're trying to commit suicide, you normally do it to your head, but you don't have gunpowder residue on your shoulder. So one, we got the gunshot wound. Two, we got the gunpowder residue on the shoulder. Three, which is critically important, we got bullets in the gun matching the bullet in your shoulder. If that's true, what happened? The guy, black guy, grabbed your gun, took the bullets out of your gun, put the bullet in his gun, and then shot you with your bullet from his gun. Well, maybe that's what happened. But if it is, let the defense attorney lay that out. And finally, the fourth point is a suspiciously or inexplicably discharged firearm. Those are four basic points. And finally, before we hear from Greg Brinkley and Pam Africa and a few others, the question is a matter of justice. It's not just a matter of a police officer committing a crime. Worse than that is a police officer putting all black men in West Philly at around April 5, 2010 in jeopardy. And that's the key issue. Finally, and I won't go into the details, but if folks want it, this letter is on the website of www.avengingtheancestors.com. We tell Seth, first of all, we show him clearly that immunity stuff is irrelevant. We educate him about the circumstantial evidence, and then we tell him what the 10 criminal charges are. And I'm going to quickly go through them just so Seth knows in case he doesn't know. First one, false reports to law enforcement authorities. That speaks for itself. Second charge, false alarms to agencies of public safety. Third, unsworn falsification to authorities. Fourth, tampering with or fabricating physical evidence. 5, tampering with records or identification. 6, tampering with public records or information. 7, obstructing administration of law or other governmental functions. Let me jump to 8, official oppression. 9, possession of an instrument of crime. And 10, recklessly endangering another person. Of these 10 charges, 9 are misdemeanors, 1 is a felony, which means Sergeant Robert Ralston has an exposure of 34 years in prison because we got 9 misdemeanors and 1 felony. And Seth can't say, well, it's too late because this happened in April of 2010. On misdemeanors, the statute of limitations is 2 years. So Seth got 11 more months on that. On the felony, the statute of limitation is 5 years. So we're demanding that Seth do what he was elected to do. And call him and tell him 215-686-8000. 215-686-8000. We're now going to hear from Greg Brinkley of the National Action Network, headed by none other than Reverend Al Sharpton. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Just to piggyback on what Mike said, many of you might have known last year we supported the organizational perspective of what Mike and Willie, Natil, and the lawyers were doing. We met with Seth, and what Seth told us, based on what Michael said, is that all of the bullets, that the 38, there's several 38, so they couldn't distinguish between what was the powder and what wasn't the powder, and that they had this agreement. Many of you remember I specifically went to the Tribune and I said, okay, even if you have an agreement that you can't prosecute, the agreement doesn't cover your support in us to go to the state attorney general asking them to prosecute. There wasn't a response to that. But one thing that you guys need to know, this is real serious. And I only want to work with people that's serious. I don't care if it's 5. Really, because enough is enough for what they're doing to our people. Mike talked about something that we actually experienced. After the event, a group of us went out to the neighborhood. And I spoke to many of the people who fit that description. And the cops came at him. This one guy fit the description, and he said the only reason the cops believed him, he said he was so scared that he peed on himself, a grown man. This is out of his own mouth. And the only reason they believed him when they stopped harassing him, because they knew he hadn't been telling the truth, because he was so scared and he peed on himself. Now, this is going on time and time again. What we're looking to do is to file a lawsuit because you went out to that neighborhood, and maybe we start doing that and raising that issue, since you're making him pay for what he did. And maybe the city, the taxpayers need to pay for the people, the innocent people that they harassed. And it happens time and time again. And I ask you a question, when are we going to get tired of this? Tired of this. I mean, this can't be a one-day proposition. It doesn't happen like that. You know, I'm going to say this because I don't have a problem talking about race. I'm not racist. I didn't create it, but I'm not going to run from it. Let me ask you a question. People talking about, and I listen to Seth talk about like he's from West Philly. I used to gang war too, and he almost had me because he talked the street stuff, and that sounds good. But I don't care what you say, I'm watching what you do. Now let me tell you 2 instances when it became situations where white people were involved. The Pandas people, the one time you have a white person that gets shot, he arrests them, responds to the white community, and I'm glad that he did that. So why is it that in Temple, 5 months ago, many of you guys remember, you had a white guy standing, he shot somebody. Now many of our people get shot and there ain't no gun. This guy had a gun and the police didn't shoot him. I'm glad they didn't. But why is it that there's clearly a different standard? We don't have to go through that. It's clearly a different standard. We can't let Seth, just because he's black, meet here because he didn't answer the letter, Mike. Reverend Sharpton will not meet with Sip, because Sip called us up and wanted to meet with Reverend Sharpton. He said, can you answer that letter? See, remember, when I went on the program, I'm not an attorney, so they was able to eat me up on WR, the host and everybody else. You don't know. So, two qualified attorneys raise the question. If you're right, Seth, just answer the question. If Mike and them are doing something wrong, answer the question. To not even answer the question speaks volumes. Speaks volumes. In this city today, I'll say this and I'll get off. I'm going to talk about this because I think it's important and partial to what we're going through. Just the other day, what you guys didn't hear, a cop shot a man in Port Richmond. You know that? That was on the news. And what the news reported was that the guy got shot outside the house. Well, last night, 12:30, 1 o'clock, I'm interviewing along with my wife, interviewing the victims. Inside that house, in front of children. In front of children. They shot him and executed that man 4 times in front of babies. I saw the couch. The public hasn't reported that. And now it's coming out. Guess what? It was a contract killing. But I've been saying these cops are killing these boys to silence them. You got bands of cops out here robbing people. It's going on, folks. Let's stop playing. Michael Nutter this morning talked about stopping. He sounds great. He got tough on violence. So he called himself moving away from that stop and frisk to the fact that we ain't fighting. We ain't out here fighting violence. Many of us out here fighting violence. Even if we wasn't fighting violence, what the hell that got to do with stopping and frisk and shooting our babies down and our kids up and beating our kids up in school?
Thank you.
I'm sick of it, y'all.
Yeah, me too.
And I only want to work, please, hear me. The National Action Network in Philadelphia, under my leadership, only wants to work with people that's serious. You want to photo op and all that crap? I ain't about it. Our kids are catching hell.
Right.
They're after our babies. If you want to work, I'll take 5 committed as opposed to 15 that's bull crapping. Thanks, Mike.